Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of It Happened to Me, brought to you by thisweirdworld.com. And I'm very lucky this week to have on the show my friend Wisper. Hey, Wisper,
Hi,
how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. I'm very excited to have you on the show. I know we're going to get into some interesting conversations. So, why don't you take a second and introduce yourself to everybody?
Hello, everyone. My name is Wisper. I'm from Springtown, Texas. I'm 22 years old, and my secret is I see spirits.
That's pretty cool. So, when did you figure this out?
I figured it out when I was about at a younger age, about 5. I would say maybe 5 or 6. We were living in our old home in Haltom City, and my dad would always catch me talking to this little girl, I would guess he would say. And he would always be like, "Well, who are you talking to?" And of course, I would tell him. And I'd be like, "Well, our name's Sally. This is my friend Sally." And he'd be like, "There's no one there." And I would just be like carrying on a conversation with this little girl that was never there.
So, you aren't aware that it was a gift or that you were seeing someone who wasn't there. You were just having a conversation with someone. Dad was telling you there's no one there. Who are you talking to?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And it kind of weirded him out.
As a parent, I can understand that. Yeah, absolutely. So I understand you had a couple of stories you wanted to share with us today. And
Yes.
why don't you go ahead and get into your stories and I'll ask some questions along the way. Okay.
Awesome. Okay. Well, this story takes place at a hospital when my grandmother was very sick, and there was this one time we were visiting her at the hospital, but she was napping or sleeping at the time, so we had to wait in the waiting room. Me and my father, we had to wait in the waiting room. And of course we're sitting there bored and blah. And all of a sudden this guy, this random Hispanic guy, comes up and sits next to me, and I'm like, "Dad, there's some guy sitting next to me. Who is this?" He's like, "There's no one there." I'm like, and then I'm kind of like freaking out inside because I look at this guy and he's like, "You can see me?" I'm like, "Yes." And he goes, "Well, can you tell my family something?" I was like, Sure." And he tells me that the surgeon cut the wrong artery and that he died on the table. Well, I told my dad what this Hispanic guy had told me, and I said, "Well, I need to tell this family. He wants me to tell them." And my dad goes, "No, you are not telling that family that. No." And so I just kind of sat there, still freaking out, a little 14-year-old girl just sitting there and just like, mm. And a few seconds later, the surgeon comes out and he takes this family that I was supposed to talk to, and he brings them into this little private room, this little private area. And a few minutes later, they just come out bawling. And so that was kind of the moment that my dad believed that I could see spirits. Because, for one thing, there was no one there. And how in the heck was I supposed to know that that was the family and that that's what happened?
Yeah. So did the guy stick around or I mean, what ended up happening with the gentleman you were talking to?
Well, it was kind of hard for me because I didn't know what I was doing. Um, So after they came out and they were like bawling, my dad just kind of looked at me, and then I see this guy, the same guy that was talking to me, amongst this family that he was with, and he just looked at me and went, and I was like, and then he just disappeared. and there was this gust of wind that just came out of nowhere, and my dad felt it, and he's like, "What just happened?" And then I had to kind of explain it to him.
Interesting. How did so you said you were about 14 when this happened?
Yes.
And that's the first time you remember something like this happening when you can actually remember it. So you know of the story when you were little, but this is the first real kind of encounter that you can remember.
Yes.
Okay. And did that make you, how did you feel? I mean, were you afraid or excited or,
Well, spirits tend to give off this special energy. Um, it's kind of like a human having an aura. Uh, they're earthbound spirits with unfinished business to do. Like they come to people like me and they tell them, "Hey, can you tell my son blah blah blah?" And I'll be like, "Yeah." Well, it helps them to move on, I guess. Um, a lot of times they tell me, "Do you see that?" And I'm like, "See what?" They're like, "This big ball of light." And I'm like, "Go into it." And but it's kind of cool, but it's kind of frightening because in your own when you're able to do this, it's like in your own mind you're thinking, am I crazy? Is this real? Am I seeing what I'm seeing? Is this really reality, or am I just going crazy?
right?
But after being able to do this for a while, I realized I'm not crazy.
Yeah. Well, and I guess, um, did the gentleman look kind of normal or did he look like he had been hurt or how did he appear to you?
He looked normal. He was very gentle and soothing, but it was kind of like as if someone wanted to get out there, get their story out there, like very pushy. But he
Hmm.
wasn't evil per
Yeah.
se.
Okay. So what was the next story you wanted to tell?
The next one was when I was in Nashville. I was touring Nashville, and there's this place called the Nashville Palace
Okay.
that I was singing at.
And I'd just like to put a little sidebar here for those of you who don't know. Whisper is a musician, a very talented young musician. So that's how we met again through music.
Yes,
I've
yes.
been very fortunate in my music career to meet and get to hang out with a lot of very interesting people. So sorry, sidebar. Go ahead.
That's fine. That's fine. Um, but when I had been going to this place for about 3 days while I was in Nashville because it's a really awesome place. Go check it out, y'all. So I was there, I was playing, and I got off stage and I was just sitting there. And there's this guy, this really tall, disturbing entity just looking at me. Like he had his brim down, his hat is brimmed down, and he's just like almost like a trench coat and like a very chiseled chin.
Okay.
And he had his black boots, and he was just sitting at the bar minding his own business. But the feeling that I got off of his energy was just like, kind of like, ooh. So I went and told the owner. I was like, "Hey, there's this guy, just like sitting over there, and he's just like staring at me, and I think you have a spirit here. I'm pretty sure." He looked at me. I thought he was going to be like, "What?" But no, the way he responded to me, he's like, "You see him too?" I was like, "Well, yeah, I do." It's like, "Well, we call him Jerry." I was like, "I don't think that's his name." um, but then the owner called the waitress over, and he was like, "Well, this little girl has seen Jerry." And she was just baffled. She's like, "You've seen him?" I was like, "Yeah, I see spirits. I've seen him." And she was like, "You have to take her to the back." And I was like, "What's the back?" Like I'm about 15, 16, and I'm just like freaking out here. I'm just like, what's the back? Am I about to be murdered? And no, it's actually a big, huge dance hall, like with this big old dance floor,
Oh,
big old
nice.
stage. And I thought they were taking me back there to be like, hey, would you want to play up here on this stage? No, it was to, they took me back there to be secluded where no one could hear us, where it could just be us. And
Okay.
of course, my dad went with me. And they were telling me about their experiences, like how one night Jerry literally threw like a shot glass or a piece of glass at the waitress and it hit her in the leg.
That's
Um, they
crazy.
they were telling me all their paranormal experiences there, and so they took me back there, and I was like, I felt like I was being drawn to the dance floor. When I stepped onto the dance floor, I heard horse hooves, mooing, chickens. I heard like a farm or something.
Interesting.
And then when I stepped in a certain spot in the middle of the dance floor, it probably wasn't the middle, but it's pretty much the middle. Well, I got shot right here in my chest. And when I lifted up my shirt, there was a little like a circle, like a perfect circle of like a bullet hole right
Hmm.
there. Um and everyone's like, well, what just happened? So I told them and they're like, well, you know what this place used to be, right? And I was like, no. Like it used to be like a field, just a field of farming. And I was like, well, that makes sense. But why did I get shot? And they're like, well, I don't know. I was like, oh, okay. I got to come back again and investigate.
Maybe that's why Jerry's there. You never know.
Maybe. Another story is actually with my best friend, Laura. So we have been friends for about a year now. And she would always come over and stay the night, do what girls do, just hang out.
Sure.
And well, we went to sleep one night, and this was per se about 1 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
And this was probably uh, a few months ago, like maybe right before the pandemic started.
Okay.
And we went out to watch the stars because I live like on a farm. So we went out in the field and we laid down our blankets and we just watched the stars.
Mm.
Well, she started feeling something and so did I, but I didn't want to just be like, yeah, there's a spirit over there, like freak her out.
Sure.
And it was it was weird because she's like, no, I feel this evil. I was like, what? And she sits up real quick. She looks around, she pans, and when she pans a second time, she stops and she just stares straight ahead. I was like, what? And she just points. And I said, get in the car. Get in the car. So we run and we get in the car. She goes, what was that? What did I just see? I was like, well, what did you see? She goes, well, I saw a man standing there and he had these glowing eyes and he just pointed. And I said, yeah, that's Cowboy Man.
Who is
And she's
Cowboy
like,
Man?
that's what she asked. And
Yeah.
she's like, well, who's Cowboy Man? I said, he's a spirit that won't talk to me, only shows up at night, and all he does is points. That's all he does is points, and he always points in the same direction.
Hmm.
And I started feeling this stinging on my ankle, and I went to scratch it because it was itchy, and I picked up my fingers and I was bleeding. And I was like, I started freaking out. I was like, I'm bleeding, dude. She goes, what? And so I picked up my ankle and I showed her, and it was 3 scratches.
Hmm.
They were all the same cut, same size, same length. And yeah, she's like, there's no way a sticker could have done that, because we were like
Yeah.
right in the field. I said, I don't even want to think it was Cowboy Man because it was scary. And I have never even told her about Cowboy Man. I don't even like to talk about him. He honestly scares me because, like, spirits, when they come up to me, they're like, oh, you can see me. I'm like, yeah, I can see you. And then they tell me, but Cowboy Man just like
It just stares
stands
at you, huh? So when most of this, so you say you see spirits, and I'm guessing this is a pretty common occurrence for you.
almost every day.
So do they normally look like normal people, or do they, like in TV shows, you see them and they sometimes they look like how they died. So,
Oh,
or do they look normal, or do they, let's dispel some of the fears. Do they just look like normal people and they're needing help, or do they scare you sometimes?
um, yes, because there was actually this one time where I was at, where was I? I was somewhere. I can't remember. I'm sorry, but I was somewhere and there was this car wreck where I was playing Mule Barn. I was at Mule Barn. There was this car wreck where I was playing, and I was like, there's just been a wreck. They're like, everyone's like, what? What? I'm like, yeah, there has just been a wreck. And they're like, well, how do you know? I said, because the guy who's standing there all bloody, freaking out, is like telling me there's been a wreck with a black sedan and a red Corvette. And they're like, well, I haven't seen Richard. I haven't called. Well, not seen, but I haven't yet to hear from Richard. And I was like, what does he look like? And they're like, you tell me what he looks like. It's like, well, he's bald. He's got like mustachy, like a little aftershave. And immediately after I said that, they're like, yep, that's Richard. What happened? I was like, well, the crash, cars, red, black cars. And I was just freaking out because he was all bloody. But after I told them what had happened to Richard, Richard looked all normal and looked like a normal guy.
Hmm.
So they don't always show up like that. It's more like they're confused. And when they're confused, like sometimes they don't know they're dead.
Yeah.
And it's hard to tell them. They're like, no, 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 there's no way. So hearing some of these spirit stories about how they died and how they don't know, it makes me think that death is actually pretty painless.
Yeah. Because they don't even know. They're just not aware, huh?
Exactly.
So do the ones that are like that, do they not find it odd that no one can hear them or see them?
They do. And that's when, because sometimes people will ignore you, like on the streets or something, like, let's go
Hmm.
crazy. I ain't talking to her. Some spirits take it like that. And then some actually do catch on. And that's when the hauntings begin. But I'll tell y'all one thing, people are haunted, not places.
Yeah. You don't think places are haunted?
No, some spirits may get stuck there, but it's mainly because of the people that have lived there.
Hmm. So what
Like
makes you say that?
sometimes they'll get attached to an object and they'll stay where that object is. Like if you carry it around, so will that spirit. until
So
it crosses
what makes you
over.
say though that people are haunted in up places?
Well, it's more of like when you're at a place, yeah, you may see things and hear things, but it's not what you think. Because a lot of times when you bring somebody to that place, the activity will just boil. It will just get bigger, more paranormal experiences, more stuff throwing around, more of that stuff. And that's
Hmm.
because that one particular person that they're haunting is there and that's who they want to make communication with. Sometimes they'll just like throw something around to be like, "Hey, I am here. Listen to me. Why can't you hear me? Why aren't you looking at me? Why aren't you talking to me?"
Right.
And it's kind of sad, but it's just like, "Sorry, dude. You're
Yeah,
dead."
that's true. I mean, what can they do, right? Nothing except scare you. That's kind of it.
And that's where people like me, mediums, as I call them, um, they come to us. They ask us to tell that person. That's why they come to us. They don't just
Mhm.
be like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna haunt this place." Um, no, it's where they come to you and they tell you like what they want. Like, "Hey, I need you to tell so and so that I'm in love with her and that I always have been, but since I died, I never got the chance to."
Nice.
Um, there was one time where there was a grandmother that came up to me and she's like, "I need you to tell my daughter that in her teddy bear there is a whole bunch of money." And I went
Oh
up and
wow.
told her daughter that. And she, of course, called me crazy and all that. And a couple days later, I get this phone call because I gave her my number. I get this phone call, and she's like, "I'm so sorry. Thank you so much. No one of us could find the will or the money." I was like, she's like, "What do I owe you? Can I give you half of it or what?" I was like, "I don't I don't do this for money. I don't know. I
Yeah.
just do it for the spirits that need help."
So do they? I'm trying to think here. So do spirits come up to you even in your home?
Yes. Yes, they
Okay.
do. Sometimes they come to me in dreams, but that's rare. I'm not a dreamer. But a lot of times when I have a friend come over and then they're not my friend anymore for any reason or they don't come back, their like dog or cat or uh like if it's an animal, I do see animals as well, but if it's an animal, it will stay. It'll stay where it feels safe.
Hmm.
And but like if it's a person, they will try to contact me and have me contact them again because I was pretty much just like looking at them the whole time. And I didn't want to just be like, "Hey, your brother, he's behind you." Like, not to freak you out or anything. No, I can't just do that.
So I guess what's been your scariest experience? What's been the hardest one for you?
The hardest one for me is actually the most cruelest. I also get these visions. And what a vision is from a spirit is how they died. And the one scariest is for me is my mom and my dad. Of course, they know what I can do, right? So they take
Hmm.
me to the most haunted place that's closest to us. And I'm like, okay, I want to see if this place is actually haunted. And it's the Baker Hotel in Mineral Wells. So they take me there, and of course, we trespass because I
Shh!
felt like
Don't
that.
tell
I
anybody.
felt I felt like that was needed. Um, but so I'm like peeking through. I don't see anything. I don't see anything, nothing. But the one time I saw something was when by the pool, when we walked around by the pool, I had this vision of this. I was running. I was just running through the hotel, just running. The lights were here and here, and they were like perpendicular, just perfect, going all along the hallways. And the hallways were red, reddish pink with like circular, like little thingies like that on the wall. And the floor was like black, just pitch black. The floor was just black. And I have, I'm just running. I'm in white. My hair is running with me. And I'm just looking around, trying to find a way to get out. And I just see the window. I head for the window and I just jump out. I just jump. I and then as I was falling, I could feel everything that they were feeling. And I was falling. And sorry, when I hit the concrete, or the bricks, actually, when I hit the bricks, I just jolted back up and I was back exactly where I was standing. I looked down. I was fine. I was me. So the whole theory of the woman trying to jump out of her window into the pool, I honestly don't think that's what happened, because what I think was happening was that she was she was running from somebody.
You think
Like
she
she
was
was about
running from someone?
Yes, like she was running from someone.
Hmm.
But the one thing in my vision, I never looked back. I never looked back.
Hmm. Too busy running, huh?
Yes, I
So,
was petrified. And that was probably the worst experience that I've ever had with the spirit.
huh.
And
Have you
so
ever had
after
any
that,
persistent spirits? Spirits that wouldn't leave you alone?
oh, all the time. um, there's one at Maddie Lou's in Springtown, and it's a lady like from the old era. Like she had like this bonnet on the side and like these beautiful peacock feathers, and this like dress, like this maroon reddish dress, like of the olden days, like with the cuffs at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And her name's Lori, and she just wants me to tell her husband, who's probably dead as well, that this is so hard to say, but she knows he was cheating
Nice.
and that she forgives him.
So have you told her that she's probably been dead a long time and her husband has probably passed away?
Yeah, she won't listen to me. She won't listen to me. Like, she just wants her husband to know. And I've told her, I'm like, hey, your husband George is dead. She's like 53 per se, but she's beautiful. She is beautiful. But she's so annoying.
So does she know that she's dead and she's choosing to stay there?
Yes, she knows. I've told her multiple times.
Interesting. And so she's aware. She's acknowledged the fact that she's dead.
Yes, I see her every Wednesday
Every Wednesday, huh?
because I do karaoke there at Maddie Lou's every Wednesday. So, and there she is, rocking out. And she just stays there because I've told her, hey, your husband's already dead. She's like, well, I guess I'm never crossing over. And I was like,
Nice.
hmm.
So she hangs out for the karaoke, huh?
I guess so.
So have you ever had a spirit tell you what it's like to be a spirit? So have you ever sat down and had a conversation like this with a spirit, like the lady at Maddie Lou's?
It's no, not really, because of how other people will see me. Like I'll just be walking down the street somewhere or like at a bar per se, and there'll be just spirit just come up to me and be like, "Hey, you can see me, can't you?" And I'm like, "Go away. I'm with friends. Go away. Not now." And they're just beep, 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 beep. Especially if they know that they're dead, they're just like beep, 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 beep. And I'm like, it's kind of aggravating, but I've learned in a way how to like tune them out. That's probably why I got into music because it's like a distraction, I guess,
Mhm.
from the voices.
Well, do you ever go back after to see what was going on with that particular spirit?
Uh Usually no, because sometimes they leave signs that they do not like, "Oh, you can't help me, I see that." And they
Okay.
just kinda give up, I guess. They're just like people,
Yeah.
just as in way people think. Sometimes they're persistent, sometimes they're just like, "Eh."
Hmm. Well, I guess I'm trying to think if I have any other questions for you. Um, let's see. I guess have you when you see spirits, does it is it initially um do they initially give you different feelings? Or are you kind of standoffish with them? Or do you say, okay, that's a spirit? And do you get different like you were saying, like evil or peaceful or feelings like that about different spirits, or are they all kind of the same or
Okay, okay, yes, they all do give off the same energy that they are spirits. A lot of times it's when you walk into a room and it's like super cold, but when you walk into another room of that same place and it's like just regular, that's an indication that there is an entity there. Another one is a lot of times I can look at their facial expression, see if they're scared, angry, confused. I can see that. Um, what's another one? Let's see.
well, have you ever had a spirit that was angry that you wouldn't help them and that like followed you home or harassed you?
No.
No. That's pretty
Mm-mm.
cool. So your home is kind of a safe space. Spirits don't really bother you there, except for Cowboy Man.
Yeah. Um, there was also my dad just reminded me of what happened in school one time, or a lot of times actually. Um, I literally had an anxiety attack. I was probably a freshman in high school, and I was sitting, just hanging out with friends at lunch,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden, this guy with blonde hair, green eyes, um, blue shirt, and like jeans, just regular denim jeans and some white sneakers. And he was just talking to me. And I told him, just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. And he wouldn't leave me alone. And so that caused a lot of yelling from me and just talking into the air to people. And so everyone staring at me, calling me crazy, caused me to have an anxiety attack right in the lunchroom. And I got sent to the counselor's office. And of course, she didn't say crazy, but I knew what she was thinking.
Mhm.
And so they called my parents, and my parents took me home, and they're like, "What happened?" So I told them. They're like, "Oh," because they don't like to hear about it. They don't like to hear that, "Oh, look, there's a spirit over there." They don't like to hear that.
Right.
And that's why I've also learned a way to tune it out.
Sure.
And there was some kids at school that would come up to me and be like, "I see what you see." I'm like, "Really?" Like, "Yeah, Jake needs help." I was like, "Who's Jake?" And they're like, "The spirit, the dead guy." I'm like, "Did you seriously just call him a dead guy?" No. They're spirits. They're earthbound spirits. And I was like, I kind of caught on to what she was doing, little attention getter. So I was like, what's he look like? He's got dark hair, blue eyes. I was like, okay, okay. No,
Yeah.
that's not what he looked like.
Well,
So,
I guess what would you say to other people who are like you that are looking for some place to turn or looking for help? Maybe want some. Have you gone out of your way or tried to seek out someone who's maybe older than you that's been doing this longer to help you hone your skills? The same way you would go to a guitar teacher to be better at guitar. You know what I
my
mean?
aunt my aunt actually has the same ability.
Okay. And she helps you.
Yeah, she has. We've bonded over it stronger because of our gifts, of our same gifts. And just so anybody's watching, just so you're not freaked out by your child if they're talking to their imaginary friend, it most likely is a spirit because children under the age of 9, 9 and under can see spirits. Also, your animals can see spirits. And so don't get freaked out. Just be like, they're just like anybody else. Even if you can't see them, just kind of be like say you're eating and you see one of your dogs barking into thin air. Just be like, "Sup? How you
Yeah.
doing?" And if you really don't want them there, just close your eyes and just say, "Go away, please." And don't just get don't get emotional because they can feed off of that. They can feed
Right.
off of your energy.
Mhm. Well, and I
So,
guess the last question I have for you is, have you ever run into anything darker than that? Anything other than an earthbound spirit?
like a like a demon?
Yeah. So Cowboy Man, if you're saying that you were scratched in the ankle, right? And there were 3
Yeah.
scratches, that can be a typical sign of a demonic type or darker type entity. Have you ever run
Yeah,
into
but
anything else like
yeah,
that?
yeah, no, it's just Cowboy Man, I guess. But he hasn't ever been physical. Like when somebody grabs something and they hobble him at the ankle to make him
Mhm.
stop, or like I don't know if that's what he was doing or if he really is evil, but his eyes, sometimes they're yellow and sometimes they're red. It just depends. I guess it's his mood.
Mhm.
But he's never talked to me, and he only shows up at night. And the
Yeah.
weirdest thing is when I'm watching TV, which I love to watch SpongeBob. When I'm watching TV, I'm laying there and I'm just watching it, and then all of a sudden I look away, and then I look back up, and there is this black shadow of Cowboy Man, and he's just standing in front of the TV. And all my friends who have stayed the night with me have seen him, and
Hmm.
they what's weird is they don't wake me up when they see him, so I guess they're not afraid of him, but they immediately tell me as soon as I wake up, or they wake me up in the morning.
Yeah. Well, have you ever thought about maybe getting your aunt out there to take a look, see what's going on?
No, I haven't. I'm gonna have to do
And
that.
if she has similar gifts, maybe the 2 of you together can figure out what he's doing there.
I've never thought about that. I'm just so afraid to talk to people about this
Well, I think
because
that you're gonna have to open that part of you up. There's probably some other people in the area who could use another person to talk to. As a matter of fact, if you watch the show, Courtney Mock was on the show, and her daughter has gifts that are similar to yours.
Mhm,
Maybe, and she's younger. Maybe the 2 of you could kind of touch base with each other, and you could kind of be a mentor to her. Maybe you and your aunt could help her.
that would be awesome.
All right. Well, I'll pass if it's okay with you. I'll pass your information on to Courtney, and you guys
Of
can
course.
kind of work it out.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. Well, it's been awesome having you on the show. I hope you've had a good time. Let me
Thanks for
stop the
having me.
recording and we can just hang out for a couple more minutes. Okay.
Okay, awesome.
Perfect.